So, good morning. I'm going to introduce everybody to Efrem Brynin, and I always get that wrong because I always want to call you something else. And you've got this incredible business, or if you like, volunteering partner who's called Dan Cross, so we can't leave him out of this at all. And I met you, first of all, we just decided, I think it was probably nearer to 2 years ago, when you were doing a talk about the incredible charity that you set up in memory of your son. That you're going to tell us about, and I am an absolute advocate of men's mental health, so you're going to come on to that in a minute. And I can't believe the statistics and the information that you've just actually told me about, so it'd be great to know all that stuff as well. So I'm going to pass the stick over to you, Efrem, and I think that the idea of the exercise is you tell us a little bit about your background, which I know has been predominantly in the construction industry, and tell us all about your charity, which is called StrongMen. So over to you.
Thank you, Beverley.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you a bit of an introduction to myself. My name is Efrem Brynin. My background is construction and predominantly sales. I worked in a fit out industry, so projects mainly in central London, where we would look at an office that was being fit out for a lawyer, a bank, anything along those lines, and we provide specialist partitioning as part of that. So I worked in that industry for pretty much 30 years. I'm still doing a little bit with it consultancy wise, because having taken a break from it, it's been good for me to recharge my batteries. And I picked up so many contacts and skills along the way that it would be a shame sort of not to utilize them. So it's given me the opportunity to do so. And being linked with our charity, that's also quite a unique bonus for me, if you like, to be able to speak to people on two different levels, on the level of what I do professionally and what we also do voluntarily. So it's a nice crossover as well, and it enables me to use that to the benefit of both arms, really. So I was in that industry for a long time. As I say, I still am. I started doing estimating and just worked my way through to sales, which I'm not what you call a typical salesman, because I don't like selling things, but I like people. So the key to all these sales things, I've always found, whenever I buy something, it's always because I'd like the attitude of the person. Given two identical things, I'd always go with the person whose attitude
that's right.
you feel like wants to help you.
I think it's called know, like, trust, isn't it, actually? Know, like, trust, so that you can actually do business with people,
Absolutely. So it's one of those things, and I enjoy that side. I think I've always enjoyed dealing with people. So basically, I was in that industry for a long time. What happened, which changed that, if you like, or destabilized is probably a better word. During 2013, my son, who was in the army, was unfortunately killed while serving out in Afghanistan. It was his second tour of duty. He was part of the Brigade Reconnaissance Force, and he absolutely adored his job. He loved doing it. He loved being in theatre. For us as a young family, because I was 41 at the time that James died, my wife had just turned 40. It was everything. Every part of what we did was based around our children. James was 22. Our daughter at the time had just turned 21. So for us, everything just changed, not in an instant, but over that period, the period between when James died and probably a few months that followed after that. And what I became aware of was how isolated you become as an individual and as a family, especially when the circumstances have been difficult, i.e. I'm saying if it's not an expected death in particular, that no one really understands what's happening to you. Nobody really can empathise, and nor should they really. It's a horrible thing to have experience with, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But what you quickly learn is not necessarily what to say, but what not to say. And some of the frustration side of things, where people are always, the classic, time will get, it'll get better over time, or I know exactly how you feel. And been through the same thing. You wouldn't know how I feel. It's just impossible to do so. And it doesn't matter, because as the recipient of that advice, you kind of just go, it doesn't matter anyway, because you can't unfortunately change the facts of what's happened. So what happened then over the next few years is I kept working. I probably went back to work too quickly. It was only a matter of a month or maybe 6 weeks I was back working, and it's the standard typical men thing of, it'll give me something to concentrate on,
my mind.
Yeah, and what it did is it just delayed the problem, and it just built and it built and it built. And what I should have done is what my wife and my daughter did, because being women, they were just better at that whole dealing with that side of things. They really took a step backwards, stopped work, changed jobs, and really were more aware of what was happening to them. But as dad and as husband, I just sort of kept juggling.
Provider, strong
Yeah,
one.
absolutely. And you know, I wouldn't change it again, because I needed, my priority was them, and it still is. So I probably wouldn't change it, but what I would be is more aware of what was happening to me, and make sure that my own well-being and my own emotional health was being addressed as well.
Yes.
So a number of years passed, and we sort of mumbled along through life, and we never really we kind of just plateaued, and we just existed for a large number of years. I got involved in certain things, and we did some charity work. We raised some money in James's memory. We did that fairly quickly thereafter, which was, again, it was a good thing to concentrate on. And it's quite a common thing to, when people lose people, that they concentrate on something. We've got at the moment very relevant PC Harper, his wife at the moment, they're concentrating on Andrew's Law, just to give them the focus. And
that's right.
Mother the other, just to give them the focus to their lives. The lives of their loved ones weren't in vain, and some good can come out of it. And that is so important. And that's what we've done with the charity, because it's still, for me and for Dan Cross, Dan is my colleague and my business partner, if you like. We've still got that focus for those that we've lost. So Dan, unfortunately, his wife was murdered while he was away on business. Somebody broke into their house and murdered her. So we both have similar experiences of, you know, one day we woke up and the world had just changed.
Life had changed, yeah.
Yeah, and it would never go back, and it would never be the same. So we both have that experience, and we both got similar ways of dealing with it. We both use exercise. We both like to be in the outdoors, and we both like to, you know, I'd say challenge ourselves is probably the best way of doing things, just to keep, again, everything working. I'm a great advocate that if you're physically well, then mentally you're well, and vice versa. If you're not well physically, then mentally everything kind of destabilizes a little bit. So what we did with the charity StrongMen is we wanted to put that together to give guys something a little bit different, not necessarily sitting in front of a therapist and telling them, you know, if someone said to me, you're going to go in a room, sit opposite a total stranger who's incredibly intelligent, who's going to ask you questions that you're already suspicious of, because you know they're going to read too much into them. I would have literally sat there and said virtually nothing. So for us, that didn't work. It works for some people, and that's great. But what we wanted to do is provide something different, where we get a group of guys together with similar or shared experiences, similar or shared challenges, take them away to a place where they have nobody they know around them, they don't know anybody else in the group, and we really just start a bond and a brotherhood, which starts on that Friday night and it ends on that Sunday afternoon. We challenge them a little bit physically, we climb the mountains, we do some activities, we get them all together into safe groups, little pockets, we take them out, we feed them, water them, etc. And we just take them away on a weekend. We're not trying to recreate like the stag do mentality, but it's that sort of, we're in this together, guys. Let's enjoy ourselves. It's a unique set of circumstances. And those little, we use that trendy term, bubbles, if you like, those little bubbles of people, then help support each other going forward after the events. We put them all into a WhatsApp group. We get them back together about 3 months later for a follow-up event. And we keep supporting them. We've also introduced the monthly Zooms, which we've done now since lockdown. So once a month, we get everybody together. They check in. We've merged the groups together now, so we've got more of them. We have guest speakers in just to talk through things who've experienced, again, similar things to they have. So we create these little pockets of friendship where they can go if they have challenges, you know, where we can go with those unique challenges of anniversaries, dates, or circumstances, move on. The guys that have lost their wives, maybe, restarting relationship, all of these challenges that come with it, where they can go for help and experience a little bit of guidance, but they'll know that the people won't judge them, and they'll
Yeah, that's right.
give them good advice. So
So
that's
you know yourself that with, you know, you were saying about doing exercise and everything, and it does help your mental health, and taking people in groups and also supporting them with maybe some counselling or coaching or mentoring or that type of thing. You know, it all adds up, doesn't it? It all makes for a really good package of information. So I know that when you set up your charity, you know, and the numbers are phenomenal of how this has actually grown. So just to put that in a nutshell for us, really, because StrongMen was there to support people that had been through trauma. It's there to support men to move forward, join together, as you say, your brotherhood, and give them opportunities and experiences. And I think you were telling me that, you know, sort of from a few people, this has actually grown to be mammoth, hasn't it? You know, and what is it now, 1,000 people?
Yeah, we have. I mean, we have 100 people scheduled for the next year's worth of retreats. We want to run 4 over the course of the year. This year has obviously been difficult with the lockdown.
And where do you take people? You take people to Snowdon?
So far, we've gone to Snowdon. Yeah, we've also got upcoming events in the Lake District, potentially the New Forest. But we need to scope out some other areas as well, because Snowdon is great, but we want to go to different areas so geographically it's better for certain people.
Yes.
Snowdon for us is perfect. It's beautiful. It's remote. It's isolated. It's the challenge of the walk with different options, and it gets people together. So we've hosted 50 guys so far. We've got 25 scheduled for October, fingers crossed. And then we've got another 75, which would have been the 100 for this year, for the following 3 events. Now, on top of that, we've got a waiting list of around, just shy of 1,000 people. So on the basis of we take 100 a year, that's 10 years worth already without any publicity, without going out there looking for things. So
we can do the numbers.
It's difficult and it's challenging for us, which is why we're introducing new services to help really impact that list as quickly as we can do. But it's great for us. It proves that the service is necessary. It proves that there's a need for it, but it's also a challenge, and it can be quite daunting to think that over such a short period, I mean, we've only been a charity for just over a year. We've got all these people looking for our support.
Yeah, and you know, and in just in that year, isn't it? You know, the knowledge of what you do is actually spread out so quickly, and just think how big that could be, you know, in 5 years' time, because there's going to be that constant, you know, loss and a need for people to you know, to actually be part of your brotherhood. And I know that we were talking earlier about somebody else that is in my network at the moment, runs a local group, which is called Man Gang, and they sort of get together and have a little chat once a week as well. But it's so important because it's not weak to speak, which is their line. And I think, you know that yourself. Now, I'm just going to pick up on something, actually, because I think you did an SAS program on the TV, didn't you? You actually went to tell me about that, because I think you actually went out to see what it felt like to be at the sharp end.
Yeah, so that's how Dan and I met. I did the second series of SAS Who Dares Wins, which was filmed in Ecuador. Dan did the year after me, which was in Morocco. So we were put together by Ollie, who's one of the DS on the program. So the only reason I entered it was because it seemed like something that would be fun, a little bit different. I wanted to experience that side of things, and perhaps how James would have felt in those circumstances of not knowing what's coming, stuck in the middle of nowhere, you know, that kind of heart lump in the throat sort of thing. So but to be honest, I'm not the sort of person to put myself in the limelight like that. It just kind of, for whatever reason, I applied for it, didn't expect to get on it. It kept going through the process, the physical tests, the psychological evaluations. It just kept going on and on and on. Before I know it, I'm stood at Heathrow, and we're off out there. So that was in 2016. I was 44 at the time. So I was very fortunate to go on it, because I did have some health care issues while I was out there, which led to a diagnosis of prostate cancer, which I had 3 years ago. So if I hadn't have done that, I don't think I would have found that. So I probably wouldn't even be here now. So one of those everything happens for a reason sort of things. And I strongly believe that's what it is. But it was great because it enabled us to really, both Dan and I brought some of that experience into StrongMen, not to the same degree, because we're not trying to break people down. We're trying to build them up a little bit.
Yes, of course.
But that feeling of how quickly you can bond with a group of complete strangers in that circumstance, or in that sort of adversity, if you like, was something that we tried to replicate in StrongMen. And that's something that we have done. You know, none of the guys know each other. So it does cause quite a lot of apprehension and anxiety as they're traveling to Snowdon. If I put myself in their shoes, I'd be thinking the same sort of, what the hell have I put myself in for? What's going to happen? You know, that's something that we wanted to you know, get them on edge, get the emotions flowing, get them sort of sensing that sort of side of things. So
Yeah,
that was
sure.
important to us. And that's been a huge part of it.
Yeah, and what are they saying to you afterwards? What value are these guys telling you that they get from this outward bound type situations? You know, things that some of them may not have experienced before because they're not all military, and you know, some of them are like you know, Dan was just away on his business, you know, when he lost his wife, and I think he was on the end of the telephone when that happened, wasn't it? Just
That's right, yeah.
So what are the benefits? What are the people saying to you? What are the guys saying to you when they come back?
Well, we've taken quite a detailed, we wanted to take some real detailed information from them, both before and afterwards, to see how beneficial it was. So we asked them to complete a number of questionnaires, which they do afterwards. And we're looking for really their emotions they're feeling leading to the event, during the event, and after the event. And with that, 100% of people have said to us that their mood is better after than it was before.
Yeah.
I strongly believe that it's a life-changing experience for probably about 3/4 of the guys that come along. Some of them, like anything, some of them take little bits out of it. They maybe refocus on certain things, maybe getting a little bit fitter. But as much as anything, just applying for it or just filling in the application forms and the detail can be a start for them, because they're kind of like,
right.
you know, I've started this now, I'm going to do it. And that's what we're finding with people. It's just thinking that they might need a little bit of help is the first step. Admitting you need a little bit of help, and then gradually it just builds up from there. We've had loads of guys who've, you know, lost lots of weight, got back into fitness, and it doesn't just impact them, it impacts their families, their friends, their community, their colleagues. They go back as different people. And I'd say for Dan and I, we're buzzing after it. We really are. I mean, it's exhausting because you put everything into it. You're hoping everything goes according to plan, which it never does. You're hoping everybody turns up, everybody's all right. And when we had one guy turn up in the middle of the night last time, and I honestly believe if he hadn't been on our course that he wouldn't even be here now. So when you make that sort of impact on people, you know, it's all worthwhile. It just makes everything worthwhile.
And I believe, like you, that everything happens for a reason, you know, and that you were there at that particular time to probably to support that person through that time. So, you know, and I do appreciate that. So moving forward, I know that you've taken on some more volunteers administratively, and are looking at peer support programs for people. So what do you need moving forward? What can your people that are listening to this, what can they help StrongMen to do now? What do you need, Efrem?
What happens next for us is, I mean, we're always looking for funding. We're always looking to grow. We're always looking for people to help us. We'll be pushing out to recruit for this specialist administrative role to help us run our peer support systems, as someone with experience of that sort of medical-based administrator. So that's something we'll be looking at very shortly. We're still looking for the vehicles. We're still looking for branding and all sorts of sponsorship and help. We've got merchandise available on the website. All of these things, we want people to know about us, get the word out there, follow us on social, anything, every little thing helps. And if you talk to people about us, or if people just say, hey, have you heard these people, have a look at the website, see what they do. All of these things are fantastic, because you just never know who the audience is, and you just need a few people to pick up on it. And as I say, because we know that it's such a needed service, we can quite easily prove to people, you know, the statistics that I've just said to yourself. So if people are looking to support us, the corporates are looking to support us, fantastic. Dan and I travel around and we do talks, as you've experienced, even though you're on the sort of condensed version. We provide talks. We've been everything from prison services to universities to corporates to the police, all sorts of things, because it affects everybody. Even more so now with what's happened. We've had, you know, what is it, somewhere in the region of 60,000 more unexpected deaths, and that will impact a wide variety of people. The people we lose, we can do nothing about, but the people that are left is what we have to try and focus on and help.
That's right.
And it's a huge challenge, because the world's getting tougher and harder all the time, and it's more difficult to find the right avenues to talk to someone, because yes, it is important to talk to people, but it's also important to talk to the right people, because there's nothing worse than trusting someone and you know, they don't know what to do, they're scared.
or people get let down, or their treatment isn't finished, which is, I know what you're very focused on is helping people all the way through. And I think overused, certainly through this COVID time, has been the Kubler-Ross sort of change in anxiety and loss curve, you know, those types of things, the psychology behind these things. And as you said, you know, people sometimes aren't ready until they fill in the form for you, you know, and then come on out and say, right, I've done it, just like you did with the SAS challenge. So right, Efrem, you know, right from when you started your school life, because this is all about careers and how things have changed, and I know that you will have used a lot of the experience that you've had from sort of building bridges and things like that with your sales background. And if we take this right back to where you started from when you were at school, what did your teachers say about you? I mean, what was Efrem like as a little boy?
When I was a young lad, when I was a young warthog, I really thought life was easy. I was going to leave school and I was going to be a rally driver. So I went to my careers officer and I said, I want to be a rally driver. And they said straight away to me, have you thought about working in a bank? Because during the late 80s and the early 90s, that was a really good job. And I'm not saying it's not a good job now, but I could think of nothing worse than working in a bank. So I think, like all these things, you have to, your personal skills are more important than your intellectual skills to a certain degree. You do need to have that education, but with our children, we've always tried to make sure they're full of integrity, full of respect, and they do things the right way. Yes. And then everything else will follow. But you have to work hard. You know, you do. These things don't just happen. Our charity, if we didn't continue to work at it every single day, it would never develop and it would never be where it was.
But it's like any business, isn't it? It needs constant support and income, otherwise it doesn't work. But I think from what your teacher said there, you know, from being a rally driver and being outside and now marching people up hills and going to snow down, I mean, just fantastic. And I can't even start to imagine, and you don't really want me to, what happened when you lost James. But I did actually lose a lifelong friend to suicide. So I do understand, you know, what that's the impact that has on family and, you know, for health. And I actually had spoken to that person the day before, and you live with that thought of, could you have done something different? You know, yours is slightly different the other way around, but I'm, as I say, great advocate of men's mental health. And having worked with a lot of them in the city back along in the 80s and 90s, you know, I've seen how bad that can actually get for some of them. So I will certainly be supporting you whenever I can with my LinkedIn local events, as I've mentioned to you before. And, you know, and it's always a pleasure to listen to you, Efrem, anyway. If we can give one people a message, what would be the one thing that you could actually do with right now? Is it funds? Is it space? What is it? What do you need?
Funding is really key to us. Obviously, with that, we're always looking for, in the future, office space, vehicles, but funding really is the key thing. So we can push out. We need to get this administrator. We need to get more weekend courses available so we can really make headway into that waiting list. And we need a fundraiser and all the other things that come with it. So funding for us is the key. It's as much as anything to know that we can speculate a little bit, and we've got this. We've got the guarantee behind us that we've got the funding to do so. We've been fortunate that we've managed to self-fund most things, but to be able to push on to that next level to employ people and give them the security that we're in this for the long term, that's why we need that funding to help. Because people always think with charity, you know, you should do it for nothing, and that's great. Dan and I we volunteer, but we can't expect people to come across and work for us for nothing. So you know, that's really the key to us. And it's just such an important thing. And like you were saying with the suicide and the huge increase, a number of the guys that are beneficiaries have lost, particularly parents, to suicide. And it's such a difficult thing, I think, for them as individuals to accept. And like you were saying, but to appreciate that they were there in front of them, and what could I have done? And it's just such a complex subject. And that's unfortunately one of the biggest challenges that we all face, is to try and, you know, be more tolerant in that respect, and listen to people more rather than, you know, dictate to them all the time.
Yeah, well, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring your charity to the focus of our business voices. What's your website address, Efrem?
So it's strongmen.org.uk.
Okay, so we'll put that in your comments, and also you stay well, because I know that you were unwell yourself a few years ago. So you do that, and we'll put this out there and see what we can do. And you're an absolute gentleman, Efrem, and I wish you and your family all the very best. So thank you very much for today.
Thank you, Beverley, and likewise.
No problem at all.